Hi guys, Tim here. Welcome to this second podcast on The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. It follows my last analysis in regards to the title and the use of images and the chapters. So this piece of analysis, it will be based on some semiotic or symbolic analysis of the gifting of the new puppy to Christopher. I'll break that down for you. I will also go back and do a little bit more work on that title. But before I begin, I want to apologize about if you can hear the background noise. What I'm doing right now is mostly podcasting in my class. There's no one here, of course. I'm in my free periods and I'm working in between classes and I'm podcasting. But you can hear, if you do hear a little bit of static or a little bit of noise in the background, that is simply because you are hearing another class in action. I will do my best to make sure that you can't hear that, but do bear with me. Okay, so going to the title again, of course, I just want to finish off on that. I just brought that into for your analysis last time, and I really think it's worth mentioning. I love analysing the titles of text, from Great Expectations to The Curious Incident to Life of Pi, anything that I've analysed. And especially in poetry, I love the analysis and breaking down the title. I think it's so valid in having a clearer picture and to sculpt an interpretation of the composer and how they see the world. So, as I said to you before, the allusion to Sherlock Holmes is multifaceted for so many reasons, but for me, it is the investigation of society itself that we go on. We learn about how someone with Asperger's or anyone who's on the spectrum survives in our world. That is our investigation, not just the surface level investigation of the boy and the dog, right? So I want you to dig a bit deeper with that and talk about Christopher empowering us. Does Christopher free us? Does Christopher give us freedom? Does the author give us freedom? Do they empower us to have greater insight into their world? Have they set us free? And through investigation, through the whole Sherlock Holmes element, we now learn more about the world we live in through his eyes. And that was what I wanted to get through, the concept of freedom, freeing us through understanding, the freedom of thought, or freeing our minds and taking those shackles off. That will be the key to that title. And that's what I like so much about it. Okay, so as I keep my podcast between 5 and 8 minutes, I will try and now move on to the gifting of the new puppy. Now that's a really, really important part of this text. Obviously, we know that the gifting or giving a gift of something so young or small or in their infancy is a rebirth. Okay, it's a regeneration, a new beginning. We get those surface level understandings. We understand that. But there is something greater to that, okay, that we have to understand. And that is that we are now on a journey of nurturing. There's that nurturing element that is so important in Christopher's life. That now we become nurtured. We become, getting this text is like the gift. And now we have understood the value of going through this. Now we know the important role the father and the mother played in Christopher's life, or the lack of, but it all works together, and there's that nurturing element coming through with the gifting of the puppy, because the puppy plays such an important role in this text, and you really need to understand that. Now, again, if I go back to point of view or POV, okay, we are understanding that through Christopher's eyes, the nurturing it takes to understand this new animal is a bit like the nurturing that you're going to need to understand what it is like to live in Christopher's shoes. We are going through a growth process. Okay, another big point, the process of growth and enlightenment, understanding and seeing things through other people's eyes. Once we learn to accept, understand, and most importantly, comprehend their ways, we become better for it. This puppy has so much intrinsic and extrinsic value, both to the responder and to the protagonist himself. It is a crucial component in understanding Haddon's greater views for this text. It is really, really pivotal, and it's one of my favorite parts of this text. Okay, so moving on, I also want to talk about another POV or point of view element, but it also can be seen as symbolism as well, would be using specific language features like factual representations and numbers, and of course repetition. Okay, and this sort of, very straight and hardline view of the world might be a little bit difficult for us to understand, and we might think it's surface level, but the irony is that within these black and white concepts of numbers and constantly, repeating things, there is a symbolic depth to it that maybe that we can't understand. Okay, so I want you to almost turn the table. It's a cliche, don't use it, but turn the table on this one and look at these specific language features that Christopher might use, and just look, forget the face expression part of it. I want you to actually think about the time, even with the emojis, or the times he might repeat the same word, things like that. They might seem obvious, black and white, scientific, and somewhat surface level to you, but when you break it down, there is a value to them. Okay, and especially with the yellow and the colored cars as driving by, because they have a structure. And you might think, okay, we're structural based, blue twice or yellow. No, but when you break the whole process down, there is a symbolic value to Christopher in terms of that structure. And that's what Haddon wants you to see. So, don't always think of Christopher's world as being overly scientific. There is grey there. There is scope and imagery and understanding to be sculpted from what we think is not even a misrepresentation, but a misunderstanding of straight up factual numbers and images. And that is a tremendous point that Haddon is aiming to make. Okay, guys, well, look, it's almost 8 minutes up. I hope I've offered you a little bit more insight into that one. I'll try and put one more podcast up on the Curious Incident, as I colloquially call it. But if you want to click onto the YouTube channel, that's linked to this, certainly on the Anchor podcast, it'll be linked. You can find some of my other analysis. If you want to comment on the YouTube channel, you can, and then you can comment and ask questions. If you want me to analyze something for you, it'll probably be easier just to link to my YouTube channel. It's called HSC English Analysis, number 4 for free. There usually is a link on the podcast to it, and then generally you can comment on them. If you comment on one that is a bit more dated, I don't tend to see it because I don't always keep up with my feeds. I know I should be, but I suppose because of my age, I'm not as tech savvy or as dependent on it as you guys are, being young youth ready to go and destroy and plunder the world and make it your own. But if you do and you want to ask me a question, I will do my best to analyze it for you, because this is a free channel. I try and keep it free, and that's because education, I believe, should be free. If I make a buck along the way, it'd be great, but I haven't made a single cent in 2 years, and that's fine by me. I get paid for the job I do in the classroom, and this stuff is just all the extras that go with it, and that's fine. So if you do have a question, I'll do my best to answer it for you guys. Thank you, and have a very safe winter in Australia, and I think summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Cheers, bye.